going to share with you the results of my 7-day manifestation experiment. And at the end, I'm going to show you how you can do the same thing. So I'm very excited to share this with you today. This actually happened. I did this manifestation experiment about 3 weeks ago. Please, please, please do try it because it does work. I promise you it works. What do I mean by manifestation? So you've probably heard of manifestation, and the fact is we are always attracting and manifesting. So what that means is what we want subconsciously we attract into our life, and we're always doing that whether we believe it or not, and whether we think we want the thing that we manifest or not. So even negative situations, and I'm not talking about things like abuse, disease and a serious illness. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the things that you think about and that you tell yourself you don't want. So for example, if you're in a relationship and you're worrying about the person you're in a relationship cheating on you, and then that person cheats on you, I'm definitely not saying that that's what you wanted, but I'm saying that with the energy and the frequencies around, there are going to be some people who don't like this, and I totally understand that, because when I first started to listen to this stuff and first started to learn about manifestation, I didn't like it either. So I understand. So it maybe you're not ready for it, and maybe you need to either keep listening so that you start to understand, or you just stop the video. So what we resist persists, and what we think about is what we attract. So you might be saying, yeah, but Carrie, of course I don't want my partner to cheat on me. But because you're worrying about it and it's in your subconscious, your brain doesn't know the difference between a negative and a positive. So it doesn't know the difference between what you do want and what you don't want. All it knows is that you've got this thing in your subconscious, and so you start to align with what's going on in your subconscious, and then you attract when you're aligned with it. And it's not anyone's fault, it just is, okay? So our brains, as I say, don't know that your partner cheating on you is a bad thing. Your feelings and your emotions telling you that. But actually, doesn't it also tell you that your partner isn't trustworthy? So this is something that I had to come to terms with, and it took me a really, really long time. So when I started to understand manifestation and I started to actively manifest, in other words, I didn't just let the universe or God or whatever you call your higher power, I didn't just let that take over. I started to actively manifest and make more decisions, because I've always kind of decided what I wanted to do, but started to make more decisions about what I wanted in life. Now, some of you watching will know this, because I know that there are some friends watching this. Just over 1.5 years ago, in January of 2024, I made a decision that I didn't want to be in the situationship that I was in any longer. And it took until the February, so it took about 3 weeks for me to end that situationship. And when I ended that situation, I said to the universe, right, I either want to be by myself, which is what I thought was going to happen. I want to be by myself, or if you do present somebody to me, I want them to be like this. And I listed all of the things that I wanted in a partner. And I remembered this time round, because I've done this before and attracted everything I wrote down, but I'd left some stuff out, okay? So this time I thought about all of the things that I'd left out before, and I wasn't looking for perfection. Nobody's perfect, but I knew that I wanted the type of person, this type of person who is like this, who is kind, who can actually love me for me and not try to change me into somebody else, who is stable, who doesn't take drugs, ideally doesn't smoke, and my partner doesn't smoke. And I kid you not, 2 weeks later, I was presented with this person, my fiance, who I'm now engaged to. Okay, so we became engaged this year. So we've not been together very long, but we've known each other for probably about 11 years now. And I'd never seen him as a romantic partner before. I never looked at him in that way. I don't know if he looked at me in that way, but it just happened really quickly. And before I even realised what was happening, we were in a relationship. We're in a serious relationship, and it's fun. And we get on. I get on with him better than I've ever got on with any of my previous partners. And it's not just luck. It's also because I've done a lot of work on myself in the past 9 years, and maybe a little bit more. It's because I wanted to attract the right person, and I had made myself ready to accept him. Now, had we gotten into a relationship, let's say even 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready. I wouldn't have appreciated him, and it wouldn't have lasted, and it would have ended, and that would have been sad for both of us, because we're like yin and yang. Okay, it's as if we're made for each other. So that's something I actively manifested. Now, before that, years ago, when I first started getting into active manifestation, so this would have been about 6 years ago, and I heard of a guy called Neville Goddard. I use one of his manifestation techniques, which is what I'm going to talk to you about at the end. The first thing I actively manifested was a new home. So I had to move very, very quickly. I was actually staying with my mum at the time. Some things had happened, and had been looking after my mum. She had gotten to a place where she was now able to look after herself and live by herself. And she moved out of London, and I had 4 weeks to find somewhere to live. And I was not really earning enough money I wasn't earning enough money to find my own place in London, because London is ridiculously expensive. And I was really quite worried about what was going to happen. I was thinking maybe I'd have to move out of London and either change jobs or quit my job, because I was in employment at that time as a music lecturer, as well as I just started building up my business. And I was really, really worried and quite concerned. And then I thought to myself, you don't have to be worried. You can ask for what you want. Because there have been times in the past where I've asked for something I've wanted. I didn't know that what I was doing was manifestation, but there have been lots of times in the past where I had asked for something and received it. So I said, I'm going to write down everything I want in a new home. So I wrote it all down. I wrote down the type of landlord or landlady that I wanted, the type of people I was going to be living with, because I knew I was probably going to have to be in a house share or a flat share. I knew the type of neighbours I wanted to be around. I knew the area, not the physical area, but the type of area. And I knew it had to be a certain distance away from my place of work. And again, 2 weeks later, I don't know what it is about 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, the person who became my landlady contacted me, and I lived in that house for 3 years, and I'm still in contact with my former landlady. We're friends, and it was a very safe home, very warm, very inviting. I felt like part of the family. It was beautiful, and I am more than convinced, I am positive that this is because I was involved in asking for what I wanted, because I knew it worked, because it happened before. Now, the reason this is important is because the universe or God or your higher power gives you what you can handle. Moving on to the most recent 7-day manifestation. So it's actually a book. I will give you the name of the book in the description, because I actually forgot to look up the name of the book is 7-Day Manifestation Experiment. I can't remember the author. I will put it in the description because I forgot to look it up before I clicked record. I decided to listen to it because it came up in my Spotify, and I thought, well, I don't believe in coincidences, so there must be a reason that this is coming up for me. And so I listened to it, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I haven't actually, life has been so good for me. I've had such a great time over the past year and a half that I haven't actually actively manifested anything. So let's just give it a go and see what happens. And so the premise really is to think about something that you'd like to manifest in the next 7 days. And you have to be a bit realistic about it, but not completely, because you want it to be something that's kind of unexpected, and you don't really want to know, you know, you don't want to know like necessarily where it's coming from. Now in the book, it's slightly different. The author says, you know, think about something that you know probably will happen, and let's manifest it in the next 7 days, something like that. But I decided that because I've done this before and I know that it works, so I didn't have to build a belief. I already had the belief and actually just the knowledge that it's going to happen. I decided to go for something a little bit different. So I went for 3 things, and they were a certain amount of money, a message from someone I hadn't heard from a message from someone I hadn't heard of in over 12 months, and a new client. And I had no idea how any of this was going to happen, because I was like, oh, well, why would someone message me after like more than a year? Like, I'm in contact with all of my friends. Didn't think about this person that showed up. Anyway, I believe that it was a Friday. So by the Tuesday, I received a message from an old school friend that I'd been very, very close to. Over the years, we've lost contact, been back in contact, lost contact, been back in contact. And I received this message, and it was just, you know, it wasn't anything big. It was just a hi darling, how you doing kind of thing. And then by the end of the day, I was like, oh, that was one of my 3 manifestations for this experiment. Okay, fine, fair enough. And I went to bed and I did the visualization exercise that I do when I'm manifesting. And the next day I had a message from a previous client who had taken a break. When people take a break, when clients take a break, they usually don't come back. They'd taken a break and they messaged me to say they wanted to restart. And so they paid me the money straight away. And so that was day 4. And then by day 5, another client messaged me and said, I was supposed to pay you this money a month ago and I completely forgot. And I hadn't realised that they hadn't paid the balance for their coaching sessions. And so I got the remainder of the money. So that was by day 6, I had all 3 of the things that I'd manifested, that I'd asked the higher power, the universe for. I had no idea how this was going to happen. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but I had no idea how this was going to come about, and it did. It was less than a week. It was less than the 7 days. So I wanted to share this with you. And so what I would recommend, if you're thinking, oh, well, you know, this isn't going to work for me. Well, if you think it's not going to work for me, then it probably isn't. Well, how you can build belief is to start with something small, like a message from somebody. You could make it somebody specific, or you could just say a message from someone I haven't heard of in 6 months, or a message from a friend that I keep meaning to contact and haven't gotten round to. Or you could say, oh, I'd really love to receive a phone call from such and such. Something small. You might want to say, oh, wouldn't it be great to find a £20 note or €20 note, wherever you are in the world. Wouldn't it be great to find a £20 note or a $20 note in a shirt when I'm doing the laundry, or in a bag that I'd forgotten about, or in a suitcase somewhere I'm not expecting. So make it something small, and don't obsess over it, but visualize yourself using it or talking about it. And this is the trick. You don't put this thing on a pedestal and be like, I'm going to be so excited when this thing manifests, because then it's not part of your daily life. It's not going to align because you're making it too far away from you. I can imagine yourself either using that £20 note or just telling someone about it in a casual way, not in a, oh my God, you'll never believe what happened. That's too much. And once you see that these things do happen, you will start to understand that you can ask for and receive anything, but you have to build it up, okay? If you say, right, I want to win the lottery, I want to win £5 million next week on the lottery, it's probably not going to happen, all right? Make it something that's a little bit distant from you, but not ridiculously. So onto the visualization that I use. I do this at night, and it's called SATS, state akin to sleep. When you visualize at this point, it's a lot easier to take it into your imagination and to take it into your subconscious. And as I said right at the beginning, what your subconscious dwells on, what your subconscious sees and imagines, is what you attract. So if you're attracting more good things actively, and you repeat this night after night, don't dwell on it and obsess on it during the day. Just go about your life, your day-to-day life in a normal way, and you will see that you will start to attract. Now, let's say you say, I'd like to find £20 and you only find 5. It doesn't mean it hasn't worked. It's just offering you a smaller taste of what you can receive, okay? Because the universe gives you what you can manage, all right? But you might get more. You might find £30, okay? So I hope that this gives you something to think about and helps you to move forward in creating the life that you deserve. Stay divine. Ciao!